the rescheduled execution of Stanley Adams, a case for death penalty awareness. Stanley Theodore Adams, a name that will forever evoke pain, horror, and complex questions about the justice system. In 2001, Adams committed an unthinkable crime, brutally taking the lives of Esther Cook, a 43-year-old woman, and her 12-year-old daughter Ashley in Warren, Ohio. Convicted soon after, Adams has spent 23 years on death row at the Southern Ohio Correctional Facility. Originally scheduled to be executed on February 19, 2025, Stanley's execution date has now been rescheduled for February 16, 2028. This 2-decade-long wait and the delay of justice ignite important conversations about the death penalty itself, the toll it takes on everyone involved, and the complex societal factors that shape both criminals and victims. This is not just a recounting of Adams' case, it is a call for reflection. This video will delve deeply into what led to that fateful night, the system that sentenced Stanley to death, and the wider implications of capital punishment. The tragic events that brought Stanley Adams into the public consciousness began in 2001 in Warren, Ohio. Esther Cook and her vibrant young daughter Ashley became the victims of a senseless, violent act. Their lives were stolen in a crime that shook the local community to its core. Adams was arrested shortly after the murders, and the legal system moved forward swiftly. He was found guilty, given a death sentence, and transferred to death row. The brutality of the crime left no doubt about his guilt or the necessity for a severe punishment under the law. For the victims' families, however, the passing of years has only deepened their grief. The justice they were promised seems perpetually delayed. The postponement of Adams' execution until 2028 is yet another reminder of the hurdles within the system that often slow the resolution of even the most serious cases. Stanley Adams' case is emblematic of the challenges inherent in the death penalty, questions of finality, cost, and the emotional toll on the victim's loved ones. To truly understand this story, it is essential to consider the complexities of Adams' life before the crime. Born into a deeply unstable environment, Stanley Adams endured an abusive and neglectful childhood. His father was an authoritarian figure prone to violent outbursts, while his mother struggled with addiction. This toxic combination created a household filled with chaos, trauma, and voids no child should ever experience. Adams' early exposure to violence and instability undoubtedly shaped his worldview. Lacking positive role models or stability, he turned to delinquency at an early age. This does not excuse his horrendous actions. It does, however, offer a glimpse into the societal and systemic dynamics that contribute to such tragedies. Unfortunately, Adams' story is painfully common. Many individuals on death row come from backgrounds marked by similar experiences of neglect, abuse, and poverty. While these factors never justify criminal behavior, they highlight the crucial failures in addressing trauma and providing intervention before irreparable damage is done. Adams' journey from a troubled childhood to a death row inmate sparks an uncomfortable question. How many similar stories could have been prevented with timely and adequate support? For over 2 decades, Stanley Adams has awaited his fate on death row, a stark reminder of the lengthy process involved in capital punishment. Ohio, like many states that still practice the death penalty, faces significant legal and logistical challenges in administering executions. The appeals process, while a vital safeguard to prevent wrongful convictions, can also significantly delay justice. In Adams' case, his initial execution date was set for 2025, but 3 more years were added to the timeline due to administrative reasons. By the time Stanley Adams faces execution in 2028, he will have spent 26 years waiting, a duration that questions the effectiveness of such a system. The ethics surrounding the death penalty add another layer of complexity. Supporters argue it serves as a deterrent and delivers justice for the most heinous crimes. Opponents, however, raise concerns about its moral and financial cost, its effectiveness in deterring crime, and the possibility of executing innocent individuals. In Adams' case, there is no doubt about his guilt, but his prolonged stay on death row has reignited debates about the suffering experienced not only by the criminal, but also by the victims' families. How do we balance justice with humanity? Is the death penalty reflective of accountability, or does it further perpetuate cycles of violence? These are difficult questions, and Adams' case forces us to confront them. The death penalty is not just a legal mechanism, it is a reflection of societal values and priorities. Adams' case asks us to consider the toll that the death penalty exacts on a broader scale. First, there is the financial cost. Capital punishment cases are significantly more expensive to litigate than those seeking life imprisonment. The years spent on death row, coupled with the procedural complexities of appeals, place a heavy burden on taxpayers. Second, there's the emotional toll. For the families of Esther Cook and Ashley, the delay of Adams' execution prolongs their pain. The promise of closure remains a distant hope, caught in limbo by the mechanics of the system. On the other side, there has been much debate about the psychological weight borne by the executioners and prison staff who must carry out death sentences. The death penalty leaves no one untouched, creating ripples that extend far beyond the courtroom. Finally, we must question its efficacy. Studies have yet to conclusively prove that the death penalty deters crime more effectively than life imprisonment without parole. In Adams' case, we're left to ask, what does his execution accomplish? Does it bring resolution to the victims' families? Does it teach society a lesson, or is it an act of sanctioned retribution? Amid the heavy judicial, moral, and financial implications lies a story that is, above all else, deeply human. On one side are two innocent victims whose lives were cut short, Esther Cook and her young daughter, Ashley. Their story deservedly takes center stage, as their legacies should never be overshadowed by their murderer's narrative. On the other side is Stanley Adams, a man who, despite the unspeakable harm he caused, retains a complex life story of his own. His horrific crime does not erase his beginnings as a vulnerable child failed by an indifferent system. What does it mean to see humanity in someone who committed such inhuman acts? By juxtaposing the victim's dignity with Adams's tragic backstory, we arrive at another pressing debate. Can rehabilitation or understanding exist in the context of heinous acts? While this may seem unthinkable to some, others see it as an important lens for examining the death penalty's purpose. As these layers of complexity unfold, the goal of this video is not to dictate opinions, but to encourage reflection. Much of the discourse surrounding the death penalty is polarizing, entrenched in absolutes of right or wrong. Here, viewers are invited to engage critically with the nuances of Adams's case, exploring their own perspectives on justice, accountability, punishment, and ethics. Consider the impact of trauma on behavior. Would an earlier intervention in Adams' life have prevented such atrocities? Reflect on the cost of endless delays for victims' families. Does the system need more reform? And for those who support or oppose the death penalty, what should its ultimate goal be? Closure, deterrence, justice, or something else entirely? This is an opportunity to contribute constructively to the broader conversation, whether through advocacy, education, or simply by developing a more informed understanding of the issue. Stanley Adams' story is a grim and sobering reminder of the devastation one act of violence can unleash. His rescheduled execution, now set for 2028, underscores the immense challenges within the death penalty system and brings to light broader questions about justice, humanity, and accountability. For Esther Cook and Ashley, their loss will never be undone, and for their grieving loved ones, closure seems forever delayed. Adams' case offers no easy solutions, but it forces us to confront difficult truths about the legal system, the societal roots of crime, and the cost of the ultimate punishment. As you reflect on Stanley Adams' story, consider this. What kind of justice system do we want for our society? How do we balance the scales between justice, retribution, and compassion? These questions demand thoughtful consideration, for they go beyond a single case and strike at the heart of our humanity.